Values-based leaders, part three. I forgot what part we're on. So I want to say thank you so much for joining the conversation. My name is Andre Koen, and I really am excited about the feedback that we've been getting on these sessions. So thank you so much. It's powerful to know that we're making a difference both personally and in your organization. So I do want to kind of just jump directly into this. And so when we think about this notion of effective leadership, and remember, we're talking about behaviors that are on a continuum. One end is effectiveness, the other one is ineffective behaviors, right? So we want to stay on this end of effective leadership. But when we talk about this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, this is where our values really play a role in that, right? And so when we think about diversity, it is commonalities and differences. And so when we look at these plants, we want to recognize that there are commonalities and differences that these plants have, right? So all of these plants need water, all of them need sunlight, all of them need some kind of growing medium and fertilizer, right? But the kind of fertilizer, depending on the plant that they need to be tailored to that plant. So when we talk about diversity, it is commonalities and differences, this understanding. And then secondly, equity and equality is the difference between everybody getting water. And then equity is making sure that the plants get the water that they need. And then lastly, inclusion is making sure that I'm removing barriers to my plants so that they can get what they need in ways that they need it. So I'm removing barriers. So my plants don't have to ask me for water. My plants don't have to take a number to get water. I've opened up the access that just because they exist in my home, that I'm providing these things for them. So there are no barriers for my plants to get what they need. And so when we think about that, that's where our values play in making sure that we're able to do these things, right? And so values, we're going to talk a little bit about the gifts that values give us, right? So values give us courage. When we don't know what to do or we don't know how to act, we're in a state of ambiguity or even chaos, we can look to the organizational values as well as the goals and mission statement to give us the courage to do what we need to do along those lines, right? And so I talk a lot about the 35W bridge collapse in 2007 because it was very impactful because people acted on their values and some people did not act on their values. And so when it went to go saving these kids on the school bus, people acted on their values, even though they didn't have the skill, they didn't have the talent, they didn't have the resources, but they said, I must do something because my values are compelling me to do that. We also know that values give us perspective. So are we about tolerance or are we about inclusion? Right? Our values will tell us where we're to direct that energy. Our values will give us purpose. Is it about equal opportunity or reverse discrimination? Our values will inform us more often than not, particular organizational values, that we're really about equal opportunity and we're not about reverse discrimination. Our values will give us clarity. Is it about political correctness or mutual respect? I have seen and peeked into the world where political correctness does not exist. And I really believe that we're actually after mutual respect. Right. I also believe that it's about it. Our values will give us direction. Is it equality in service or is it an equity in service? And I believe that our values would support both, right? That both would be supported. And so our values drive and direct everything that we do, both from an organizational standpoint. I would go so far as to say, even in a personal, individual standpoint, it is our values that drive us or that we should be aligning our behaviors with so we can continue to be effective. And so when we're able to do that, that leads us to the next step. So when I become a leader that is operating off of my values, that I'm recognizing the importance of aligning my thoughts, my behaviors, my intentions all together, then I am ready to graduate to what we would call an inclusive leader, right? And so the next step of this growth and this development is to move from just being a values-based leader to being a leader who is an inclusive leader. And so inclusive leadership has 5 tenets that we'll talk about in another session, but it's an inclusive mindset that I want to see how I can be inclusive in all of my responsibilities, that I recognize that there is cultural competence, that I have to come and understand things about the people that I'm serving, the people that I'm working with, and be agile in what those things mean. How do I use those things? Because those then lead to greater adaptability, my ability to use my knowledge in the appropriate situations to get the appropriate organizational outcome. And that I have to be cognizant of my conscious and unconscious bias as I become more effective as a leader. And then lastly, it behooves and I'm beset as a leader to foster the sense of belonging, that I have to make belonging happen because it may not happen on its own. And so as we think about the next level, so what is after being a values-based leader? It is being this inclusive leader. And so we encourage you to think about those, and we'll talk about inclusive leadership in another session. But again, my name is Andre Koen. I want to say thank you so much for engaging in this conversation, and we look forward to seeing who we become as we continue to engage in value-based leadership.